I don't know about all of you, but I was really looking forward to 2020. One of the biggest milestones, my oldest son was graduating high school. And as a district instructional coach, there were so many exciting projects coming up where I was able to support schools and teachers in the areas of project-based learning and social studies. And then in mid-March, everything changed. Our governor issued stay-at-home orders. Life was chaotic with COVID-19. So many people lost their lives. People are still losing their lives. Millions of people have lost their jobs. And when the pandemic first started, there was this massive toilet paper shortage. Using face masks and social distancing 6 feet apart became our new normal. I want to talk about our students. They lost an entire quarter being away from school. Schools and teachers were left scrambling to figure out, how do we teach our students who are now at home? The school year ended and our students are now on summer break. We don't know what the upcoming school year will look like, but we do know that online learning will play a key role in how our students learn. Instructional time with our students will likely change. What we teach and how we teach will be important. Now, as a district instructional coach, I hear it all the time. You know, social studies is number 4 on the list because ELA math and science happen first. Why? Because of high stakes testing. One of the goals of the C3 framework is to build critical thinkers and problem solvers. And I think you can all agree with me, especially at this moment in time, we need our students to have these success skills. So how do we get students to be critical thinkers and problem solvers? One solution is through project-based learning. Pbl Works defines project-based learning where students work on a project over a period of time. They are engaged in either solving a real-world problem or answering a complex question. And they demonstrate their knowledge through a project that they share with an audience. And believe it or not, project-based learning is also an excellent way to incorporate literacy education. I know a lot of times teachers cringe when they hear the words project-based learning because they may have heard from others that it takes too long and it's a lot of work. So how can we make project-based learning more manageable? How can we lift up literacy? Ron Berger said, there is no project that doesn't involve literacy, reading, writing, speaking, or listening. And he's right. I'm going to focus on the project path from Pbl Works. The project path is the path that students go through during a project, and it illustrates the learning process in a project-based setting. For teachers, the project path provides that concrete yet flexible structure for project design and implementation. Before I take you through the project path, I want you to keep this in mind. Project-based learning should be for all of our students. And the project that you design should align to meaningful academic goals and success skills. So let me walk you through the 4 phases of the project path. The first phase is a launch phase. This is where we launch our project through an entry event and we introduce our driving question. The entry event should get our students engaged and to care about the project. You also want it to spark wonder to begin the inquiry process where students will generate their own questions. A literacy opportunity here is to have students do some reading on a topic that interests them. The second phase is where we build knowledge, understanding, and success skills to answer the driving question. I mentioned earlier that instructional time with our students will change. And online learning will probably play a big role in how our students are going to learn. So we need to be intentional in what we teach. Keeping this in mind, what academic goals will be most important for this school year? In this phase of the project path, we build knowledge about the project through student-generated questions. And to help build that knowledge, students could be reading a variety of texts, maybe books, articles. They will likely conduct research, and they might even be interviewing an expert. In the third phase is where we develop and critique products to answer the driving question. In this phase, students will get feedback from teachers, peers, or experts so that they can improve their work. Using protocols with students is a great way to provide structure to support both speaking and listening in this phase. Now, the second and third phase of the project path are iterative, meaning it can go back and forth. As students get feedback, they will likely have new questions, which will require them to build more knowledge about the project. The fourth and final phase of the project path is where students present products and answers to the driving question. It's important for students to make their work public. Yes, to celebrate success and to showcase their product, but more importantly, to share their PBL journey and reflect on their next steps. In this phase, speaking is elevated when students explain their answers to the driving question and share their process. Okay, so you're probably thinking, sounds great, but what does this actually look like? I'm going to walk you through an example that can be done virtually, designed because of the pandemic, and I also had a teenage daughter bored at home. This will help you think through what these 4 phases or steps look like in practice. So my daughter was heading into her last quarter as a high school freshman. Because of the stay-at-home order, she was stuck at home. Several weeks had gone by and she really missed seeing her friends. Sure, she was able to create TikToks and FaceTime, but if anyone has a teenage daughter, you can probably relate to how awful this experience was for her, feeling like the world was ending because she wasn't able to socialize. So I decided to do a virtual PBL project with her and her friends. I used the project path to help guide me. The friends, as the girls referred themselves to, all had laptops and internet access at home. We used Zoom as our platform to meet virtually. They all enjoyed cooking, so I knew this project idea was going to engage them. Every time we met virtually, I usually spent the first 10 minutes, I like to call it virtual recess, for them to catch up and share bright spots with each other. The academic goals that we focused on were on English language arts, and the success skills we focused on were on critical thinking and collaboration. So in the launch phase for the entry event, I did this activity that I called Star Chart Us. Using Google Docs, the friends had 3 minutes to complete a table where they needed to list all the different names of noodles, rice, and bread they could think of. For example, for noodles, they typed in things like pancit, spaghetti, udon. I then had them read this fantastic article I found on National Geographic titled Exploring the World Through 9 Different Breads. They all read the article independently. I had them use close reading skills and annotate as they read. When they were done, we discussed the article. From there, I introduced the driving question, how do the foods we eat connect us? I also introduced their final product, their individual product, which was a digital recipe for their digital cookbook, and their final group product, which was a cooking show. Reading was a focus in this phase of the project path. Now in the build knowledge phase, the friends generated questions about the project. I used these questions to help build their knowledge. Each of the friends selected a recipe. And to help build their knowledge, I had them read articles, watch videos, and conduct some research. I created a digital learning log that kept all of their questions, links to resources, research, reflection, and feedback all in one location. I used this learning log as a formative check so I knew where they were each time we met. Reading and writing was a focus in this phase of the project path. In the develop and critique phase, we co-constructed criteria for both their individual and group product. In the early stage of the product or project, we worked with a partner to give and receive feedback. If you haven't seen Ron Berger's video, Austin's Butterfly, it's a must-see about the power of feedback. We used his 3 rules: be kind, specific, and helpful when giving feedback. For the second feedback, I brought in 2 community experts who worked in the food and beverage industry at a local hotel. Prior to this, I had them generate questions that they wanted to ask our experts. They were able to get their questions answered and revise their products. Speaking and listening was a focus in this phase of the project path. In the present product phase, the friends shared their digital cookbook and cooking show with their families virtually. They reflected on their experience. They used this thinking routine: I used to think, now I think. Speaking and listening was a focus in this phase of the project path. So there you have it, project-based learning in 10 minutes. In a time where everything might seem overwhelming, project-based learning doesn't have to be one of them. Focus on the project path and the 4 phases I spoke to. Start with the end in mind and backwards map. Do formative checks along the way. This will certainly be important if you're teaching virtually. In project-based learning, students are able to learn literacy skills, but they're also able to apply these skills in meaningful contexts. So remember to lift up literacy throughout your project because it's important. What we learn about education during this time will ultimately improve both education and teaching for all of our students. The pandemic has caused so many emotions, and while challenging, has given us the opportunities to reflect, learn, and grow.